Welcome to episode 39 of the Hoop Threads podcast. Finally back at it again. Got our NBA roundtable. Unfortunately, missing Marcellus, who was out of town, kind of under the weather right now. So we still got my two guys to hold it down. So, Jordan, why don't you start real quick and introduce yourself?
Jordan Linedecker here. Me on Twitter at 4LC. If the rest of this Jets game goes the way it's going, the next tweets you'll probably see from me will be very angry tweets about how Utah's playing.
Great. Me and Selene are definitely going to troll you endlessly in the group chat if the Wolves beat you for a third time. Selene, what you got?
Yeah, I'm Tyler Selene. Find me on Twitter at TSelene. I don't really tweet much, but when I do, I make waves. I get retweeted by NBA writers all the time.
The worst Twitter handle of all time. All right, so let's start with our awards check-in. So we're going to start with our top five in the MVP race. So Jordan, why don't you get us going?
Yeah, so for the MVP this year, I think it's pretty well set in stone at this point. I've got Nikola Jokic as the clear-cut MVP front runner. Steph Curry is second for me. He's the only one really that I could see potentially making a run. The Warriors have a pretty easy closing schedule. I think could potentially move up a couple of spots. And Steph is at this point, I think he's neck and neck with Beal for the scoring title. He's averaging like 38 points a game in April, so he's just playing nuclear. Behind them, I have I got Giannis, and then I got Luka Doncic and Joel Embiid. Want to give some shout outs to the Jazz guys too. I have Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, and Chris Paul. Kind of following them. I'm kind of on the fringe conversation, but I wanted to dig into Jokic a little bit. I got some stats here I got to read out of my pen scratch here. Jokic averaging 26 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists. That's on a shooting splits line: 57 from 2, 41 from 3, 85 from the free throw line. His PER is 31.44. If you're into advanced stats, there's only 3 players that are within 5 of that number overall. So there's only 3 other players that are above 26.4. He leads the league with 52 double doubles. If you're into the round number counting stats, his 15 triple doubles are second to Russ. And a stat that Andy Bailey posted on Twitter, I think it's at Andrew D. Bailey. He's usually got some good stuff, but this was as of April 18th. He had 41 games of a box score plus minus of 8 or more. And second in the league was Giannis with 27. So again, Jokic was 50% more than anybody else in the league. He's just playing incredibly on the offensive end. This is one of the best offensive seasons we've ever seen. And just the way he approaches the game from that center position, probably the best passing big man we've ever seen in basketball. I think as well, the Nuggets are going to hold on to the 4th seed in home court. Even with Murray going down here, and obviously Jokic is going to play a big part of that. And I'm not going to use him for Rudy Gobert on the defense anytime soon, but I think it just has caught a little bit of extra just issues. People, dogging him on his defense. It's easy to say that he kind of looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy out there, but he's very instinctual in the way he plays. I think I had a stat here. I think he's averaging like just over 2 steals and blocks combined. I think it's like 1.4 steals and 0.7 blocks or something. So it's, not earth shattering, but he's getting involved in the counting stats there as well. And again, just play some instinctual defense. So I would say he's probably middling amongst all starting centers in the league on defense, and he just blows them all away on the offensive end. So to do that and keep the Nuggets afloat, I think he's the clear-cut MVP this year.
Cool. Selene?
Yeah, just to piggyback off Jordan a little bit there, because I also have Jokic as my MVP, front runner. In addition to the stats that Jordan mentioned, I also got a couple of advanced stats. He's also leading the league in win shares, box plus minus, and value over replacement player. To me, those counting stats too that he's got, the points, rebounds, and assists, and his shooting splits, man, it's just crazy. So for me, he's the front runner. I got him followed by Embiid, really getting held back by the number of games he's missed, as usual. Then I got Chris Paul up there. I want to show him some love because nobody else is, but this is basically the same Suns team as last year. And all of a sudden, like, people don't realize, like, they're the 2 seed and they're only like a game or two back behind the Jazz, who are about to lose another game to the Timberwolves. So, like, away from somehow being the 1 seed. If they get the 1 seed, then we really got to show him some more love. But the only difference between last year's Suns team and this year's is Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. And with all respect to Jay Crowder, I don't think he's the one that's leading to this big turnaround. Finishing up my top 5, I got to get my son Luka in there, and also Curry. The only reason I'm putting Luka ahead of him is just because, like, Curry's going to be in the play-in game. So, I mean, I just got a hard time giving that much MVP love to a guy that's only making the playoffs because of a technicality this year.
Got you. So mine is pretty similar. I think we have the same 5 guys. I think I have the same top 3 as Jordan. So I got Jokic 1. I think he's a tier above anyone else right now. He's really been holding it down, since Jamal Murray's went out, really stepping up his game. Steph has obviously been going off, as Tyler alluded to. Joel Embiid, I mean, I think it'll happen for him eventually and possibly soon. I just don't think that this year he's gonna, beat out either of those 2. And then I have Luka and Giannis. My bonus question to y'all: would you be surprised if Kyrie Irving finished top 5 in MVP voting?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Somebody for that nonsense, but
would you be surprised if he finished top 10?
Nah, there's not that many like crazy people out there. Nah.
So
there was I forget who it was. Was it Andre Drummond? I think I'd shared with you guys last year that one of the award voters had Andre Drummond and like Luka Doncic on his all defense team because of what the number of rebounds they had. So there's a lot of people with shall we say interesting opinions that vote on these things. I mean, I don't know. To me, like the Nets have, I don't know, they almost disqualify themselves because of just the dearth of talent they have. I mean, I know Durant's missed a ton of time, and Harden was, Mr. Consistent here up until his recent issue with, I think, the hamstring strain. But I don't know, like Kyrie's just been a little bit too inconsistent. Like, sure, maybe he could make the top 10. He certainly wouldn't be in mine. But yeah, I mean, he's a name brand, people are familiar with him, and he's hit big shots and played well in the past. So that's kind of my non-answer. I wouldn't be shocked, but he certainly wouldn't be in mine.
He's average.
He does. The Illuminati is real.
So he's putting up 27 points a game, 6.5 assists, 5 rebounds, shooting 92% from the line, shooting 39% from 3, and almost 51 from the floor. Effective field goal percentage of 57, which for a point guard who shoots as many, pull-up jump shots and stuff like that, I think is impressive. It's pretty identical numbers to the year before that. Everything is within, 2 or 3. He's upped his he's upped his assists a little bit. But yeah, not by much. Everything's like really, really close to what it was last year. Anyway, so I thought that was an interesting thing. I mean, he's played 45 games, so by his standards, that's something, but still.
3/4 this season, that's disqualifying right there. And to me, like, MVP is the most valuable player. If you take Kyrie off the Nets and they have Harden and Durant, injury issues aside, like, that's still a playoff team. Probably still has home court advantage, or around home court advantage in the East. So I mean, I'm just not seeing it in the definition of valuable. But yeah, he's having a great season.
East, that's easily still a top 4 team. Like, the Knicks are top 4 right now. Like, yeah, like if you take Kyrie off the Nets, they're still top 4.
Real quick, too, who did you guys have for MVP preseason? I had Dame.
I had my son, Luka.
I believe I also had Luka.
Okay. All right, Jordan, go ahead. So we're going to talk about the next award, which is the most improved.
Oh, yeah. Let's do most improved then. This is my guy, Julius Randle, putting up 24 points, 10.5 boards, 6 assists. And he's putting that up, stat line up with decent defense as well. Some of that's just from being in the Tom Thibodeau system, but I think he's made some really good strides. I forget which when I saw this video, and it might have been Steph. It was just one of the guards with just ridiculous ball handling skills, and it's one of the things that just happens on Twitter now, where everything just gets just over exaggerated. And they were talking about how he was getting cooked on defense, when in fact he played about as good a defense as he could have played. Moved his feet well laterally, gave up a long two as a contested jump shot, and it went in. But most solid NBA players are hitting 50% of their shots. So 50% of the time you're not going to have that desired result on defense. So anyways, with that aside out of the way, I think Julius Randle's just playing incredible this year. Do have some stats on him from 3-point range. So he came into the league in 2014. So I think it was 6 years before this year, and this is his 7th year. So he's 42% from three this year, 33% in his career. Games with multiple 3-pointers made in his first 2014 to 2020. First 6 years, he had 42 such games. This year, he has 36 of those games alone. And then if you go up to 3 or more 3-pointers made in a game, in his first 6 years, he had 18 of those games. This year, he has 19 of those. I have to shout out, that was at JA Dubin 5. Yaya Dubin, I don't know if you guys follow him on Twitter. Knicks fan, just a good follow for lots of sports, basketball, and football stuff. But yeah, I'm all in on Julius Randle. I don't know that his stat line necessarily, show the amount of improvement that he's made. You look at somebody who's in the running like Jeremy Grant, who got a lot more playing time and opportunity in Detroit. So you can easily see the bump up in just his basic counting stats. And Julius Randle's always been a guy who's really close to just walking into a 2010 each night. But his whole game has just evolved incredibly. And I think, like Tyler mentioned a second ago, I mean, the Knicks are 4th in the East, and we kind of laugh about that, but I think the Knicks are starting to put it together, and I am the last person who ever wants to give them credit. But I like what I'm seeing out of Randle, and Jay Barrett's showing up well here. He's got past the rookie, so it's Randle for me, and I think the Knicks are a fun team to watch in the playoffs. Maybe could win around and put a scare into, if they get the Nets in the second round, you get that inner city matchup. I think that would be an incredible second round series.
Selene?
Actually, why don't you go next for this one? Because then I want to kind of do a counter argument, but because I think I know where you're going with this one, with your pick. So I want you to go ahead with this one, and then I kind of want to make a counter case.
Sure. So I think it's Randle. I think because his improvement has in turn led to his team's improvement, and his impact is just hard to measure stats wise. I mean, he's up from 19 and a half a game last year to 24 this year. He's doubled his assist total from 3 to 6, rebounding another rebound per game, up to his free throw percentage from 73 to 81, up to his free throw rate. The 3-point percentage went from 27 or almost 28% to a little under 42%, and he's taking 5 now instead of 3.6. And his field goal percentage has stayed pretty much the same on 3 more shots a game. So I think just his impact on that team, being a strong veteran presence. I mean, I think that they're 4th in the East right now. I don't even think that Knicks fans and ownership and management would have believed that they would be in this spot at the beginning of the year. So it's a big credit to what they're doing up there in New York. So Selene, let's hear your Bill Simmons. Let me give you the case.
So you definitely you got some valid points. Like the step, like the numbers are really impressive. The fact that the Knicks are currently a 4 seed is something so spectacular that James Dolan and his band can write all kinds of songs and like sell out the Garden to all 12 of their friends and do a little concert about it. But I want to point out something about the Julius Randle sets where I think that the love has gone just a little bit too far. He definitely is worthy of consideration, but then I got a couple of other guys with a little quick stats for each of them that I want to throw out and just kind of get your opinion once you've heard this Julius Randle bit I got for you, and then you can give me feedback on what your thoughts are afterwards. So for Julius Randle, remember his coach is Tom Thibodeau. Julius Randle is also leading the league in minutes per game. If
37.
you look at his per 36 minutes stats, a lot of them are actually down compared to previous years. Like his rebounding is actually like down. I mean, his assists are still up, so give him credit and some love for that. But like everything else is actually down, except for those assists, and his scoring, like his points per game, are up just a little bit. The free throws are down. Like everything's like pretty much down, just except for like a little bit of a bump up in scoring. And his assists are up. So like kind of keeping that in mind, these are some of the other guys I wanted to show some love to for most improved player. One of them is Clint Capella. This man, I want to show him some love for figuring out what Hassan Whiteside never could. How you can chase rebounds. Oh, and also DeAndre Jordan, for that matter. Shout out to that bum. But so he has figured out how to not only get rebounds and block shots, but how to do so without like taking away defensive efficiency. He's leading the league in rebounds right now at 14.5. He's one of only 2 players in the league that are both top 5 and the top 5 fifth percentile on defense and the top 10 percentile in offense. It's just him and Rudy Gobert. His player efficiency rating is a 25. A couple of blocks per game, only 1 turnover per game, despite the highest usage rate of his career. Plus, Jokic, Embiid, and Gobert are going to be the top 3 All-NBA centers. So I kind of want to find a place to show him some love. Another one is Zion Williamson. His usage rate this year is actually down compared to last year, but his plus minus went from the 70th percentile last year to the 94th this year. His scoring is up almost 5 points a game, and his assists are up almost 2 a game. So just throwing that out there. And finally, the guy who I would probably lean to giving the award to is actually Donovan Mitchell. Over 40% on threes. He's not like a good defensive player by any means, but he's like kind of competent now. His free throw attempts a game are up. His assists are up. Plus, let's be honest, he's not going to be on any of the all NBA teams. So let's kind of give him something, because otherwise the Jazz are going to kind of strike out across the board here. But that's my guy. I want to go with Donovan Mitchell because he's the best player on the best team. He's averaging almost 27 a game, and he's got to get some love somewhere. Can we give this one to him? What are your guys' thoughts?
Got another stat for you. Since the All-Star break, only Steph Curry is averaging more points per game than Donovan.
Give it to him. Crown him.
I'm just looking at his stats from this year to last to see like how marked of an improvement there is. Points is up 2.5. The shooting, he's up 2 percentage points in 3-point shooting. And let's see.
Which I think he's at 38 and change from 3 right now. And he has consistently been sitting like 40, 41. So I think he was kind of going cold before his ankle injury here.
Yeah, he upped his free throw rate, which is important.
Yes, tremendously.
From 4.7 to 6. And I think that's going to be really important. He really needs to get to the line to create some easy buckets for them. And so real quick too, what was your most improved pick at the beginning of the year? Mine was Christian Wood.
I think I was on the Christian Wood bandwagon as well. Or no, I did Ayton. Oh, that freaking bum.
Yeah, he did.
He's so afraid to roll to the rim, man. I don't get it.
Jordan, you were
right. You're killing me. I just have to remember all these. But I had PJ Washington. Who I think's had a decent year. I haven't crunched his stats in a while to see how they compare to the year before. But Washington and Bridges now getting some really valuable time and showing out well with Hayward out for the Hornets. Another pesky team to look out for in the bottom half of the Eastern playoff picture.
There you go. All right, let's go to Rookie of the Year, Jordan.
Rookie of the Year, I got the number 1 pick. I'm watching him on TV, slicing up the Jazz right now. Anthony Edwards. I just can't give this to LaMelo at this point. This could change. He could be back potentially. When this podcast is posted, they've said he could potentially return and play here before the end of the year. But at this point, he's played, roughly 2/3 of his team's games. He's at like 41 played, and they're somewhere in the low 60s. So just a little bit stat-wise for Anthony Edwards. Overall, he's at 18 points, 4.5 boards, 3 assists on the season. But if you break it down since March 1st, those numbers go up to 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists a game. And I know the common refrain from Selene and just a lot of people is that, these stats are great, but you want to see them contribute to winning, which is it's a valid point. So in the first part of the season there, up until March, the Timberwolves were 7-28, and since then they are 10-16. I'm not saying 10-16 is world beater, but they've shown a marked improvement as Anthony Edwards has kind of ascended and really become a major focal point of this offense. Let's see. I think I'm down here as well for.
I think the coaching change was big for that one too.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that, and I guess we'll get to it a little bit later. I'll have another nugget I'll drop when we talk to the year. And speaking of in-season coaching changes, just to drop LaMelo stats, that way we have him. He's at about 16, 6, and 6. So again, two really great rookie of the year candidates. It's kind of rare to have two cases that are really this good, but again, missing that much time. I think unless LaMelo just comes back and lights the world on fire, and maybe Charlotte makes a run for the 6th. I think the 5th seed is probably out of play at this point. They're a couple games back of Atlanta and the Knicks. But maybe if he gets him out of the play-in games and just goes off, then he can catch up to Edwards. But right now it's Anthony Edwards for me, and I think he'll maintain that through the end of the season.
I can't wait to hear Selene's. Let's go, Selene. Let's talk about that bum that Minnesota drafted.
Oh, you mean the Andrew Wiggins clone? Yeah. So I get the case for him. Normally because the award has always been it just leans towards whoever has the most points per game. It just has a massive edge. So I could see why LaMelo Ball, if he had played enough games, it would have been him. But because he hasn't been out there, I could see Edwards, because somebody's got to do something for that Timberwolves team. They got to do something else other than just beat the Jazz every night. But the guy that I'm gonna have as my pick out of protest, that I know won't actually get the award, but I want to give it to Tyrese Halliburton. He might not have the big flashy stats, but if you actually watch the games, he does a lot of things that actually contribute toward, I would say, contribute to winning basketball, but the Kings don't really win very much. But the man is out there trying. He kind of needs more of that. But he also has the 4th highest effective field goal percentage for any rookie ever. So I feel that's worth noting because of his efficiency. If he went out there like Lonzo and or not Lonzo, LaMelo and Edwards and just went crazy and just chucked up a bunch of shots, I'm sure he could have numbers similar to them. But yeah, it's just not his game. He cares a little bit more about winning than just chasing stats. So I'm gonna give it to that guy. Forget about that Andrew Wiggins clone. Get him out of here.
Averaging 18 a game in his rookie year, and he's still a bum.
Didn't Wiggins do that though, or did he average 16?
I couldn't tell you because the Cavs traded him away for nothing. I don't even want to talk about that. So let's move on. So mine for that is Anthony Edwards. I think if LaMelo Ball had went down, I thought that they were playing pretty well as a team. He was starting to steal some minutes and really be very impactful for them, especially down the stretch. Finding guys. Just that big of a guard. It's really hard to contain him in a lot of ways. I think it's interesting. I'm looking at NBA.com, their rookie ladder, and they have Jae'Sean Tate.
I forgot to mention him, and I was trying to butt in here. I got some stats on him.
Go ahead. Let's hit those real quick and then move on to the next one.
Yeah. So Jae'Sean this year, 11 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, and I don't have the tweet in front of me to give all the parameters, but it basically listed a set number of points, rebounds, assists, 3 points made, I think blocks and steals. And Jae'Sean Tate is the only rookie in the last 20 years to hit that threshold other than LeBron James. So anytime you are in any sort of conversation like that with LeBron James, even if, those parameters are, probably cherry picked to some degree. And especially with this dude's story, I would encourage anyone who hasn't read, there was a really good profile written about him on The Ringer recently. So yeah, I would definitely encourage you to read that, because he definitely took an unconventional path from Ohio State to the NBA, playing a couple years over in Europe and just kind of stuck with it. And the Rockets of all teams are, just cycling bodies through trying to get pieces to stick. And it looks like Jay Sean could be a keeper. So yeah,
James Harden threw a ball at him.
Yeah.
I found
his ascension.
I found the tweet, by the way. Jay Sean Tate has tallied 672 points, 324 rebounds, 141 assists, 78 steals, 34 blocks, and 48 threes made this season. The only other rookie to have posted those numbers through the first 61 games was LeBron James in 03-04. So yeah.
Can I also throw one more thing in for that Rookie of the Year thing that I
Sure.
forgot to mention?
Yep.
My son, Emmanuel Quickly, if Thibodeau played him as much as he played Julius Randle, this man will be running away with that award. His 22 and a half points per 75 possessions actually lead all rookies. He's third in wins over replacement and second to only LaMelo in box plus minus, which he could like bump all those numbers up if he did hit like Thibodeau like starter minutes of like 40 a game. Man, he'd be running away with this thing.
Yes, per 36 numbers are 21 and a half, 4 and 4 with a steal and half a block. So yeah, that is interesting to note. All right, let's go to defensive player of the year. Jordan.
Don't need a notebook for this one. Rudy Gobert. I'm not going to cite the stats for you. Like, if I need to make the argument, you're already lost. Like, I don't want to hear anything about Ben Simmons, Miles Turner, Joel Embiid, anybody else. Rudy got robbed of the award last year. Like, he should be a 3-time defending. I think this would make 4. Like, it's his award to lose every single year, for the next couple of years while he's still in his prime. He just completely changes the opponent's just shot profile every single game he plays in. Yeah, there's a lot of times that he gets put on highlight reels because he'll get, dribbled past. And there's the infamous one from Steph years ago. But he's improved and is a much better defender on switches on guards. At one point earlier this year, I had a stat that I saw that he had been switched in isolation, I think 31 times against guards. So it must have been a while back in the year. But that resulted in a shot attempt, and 9 of those were blocked. So when you're still blocking like 30% of shots when it's, isolated on a small guard, it's Rudy's award to lose. If you want to go look up the advanced stats and metrics, he's blowing those out of the water. But, I'm not going to do your homework for you. That's case closed.
So Lenny.
Yeah, the only counter argument I feel like you could even like try to make is like some kind of case for Ben Simmons, but when you have a guy like Embiid that's equally as good on defense, kind of back there helping you, your numbers are like all of Ben Simmons' kind of advanced numbers get a little boosted by having someone like Embiid back there. So that's the only crutch that's holding up any type of case that he could have to Rudy's. And I mean, Rudy doesn't not have that same advantage, and it's still put up better advanced numbers than Ben Simmons. So it's got to be Rudy. I mean, the Jazz get something. So there you go.
Yeah, clean sweep from the panel here. Though I will say I've been impressed with Joel Embiid's switchability. I forget who it was. There was a play, I think it was about a week ago. He was isolated on like the right wing on a guard for like 15 seconds, and he stayed with him from the top of the key to the baseline to the wing to the top of the key, and the dude just couldn't get by him. I think he's changed his body, and his endurance has been a lot better this year. His conditioning has been much better, and that's something that when your conditioning is getting called out by Shaq, you're really in trouble. Yeah, I think that's something that I just want to give him flowers for real quick. So let's go to coach of the year, Jordan.
So it's a 3-horse race for me. I think it's...
real quick. Do you guys remember who you had for rookie of the year and defensive player of the year? And I'll give you a second to think. Mine was Killian Hayes. I was kind of going against the grain there, even though I felt like it would probably be LaMelo. And then my defensive player of the year, I had Drew Holiday, which, I mean, he's played well, but, nowhere near, that level. You remember, Jordan?
Yeah, I had James Wiseman. Hasn't quite worked out like I was hoping with Golden State, but I am a big proponent of just the top guys usually ending up winning that award. Just kind of it's been borne out over time. So look at that. He's the one of the top 3 picks, that wasn't right in it. It's tough for him to, meld into that locker room as well. They have a winning culture there. You've got Steph and Draymond already doing their thing. So he didn't have the opportunities to go put up monster numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm maybe cooled a little bit on him long term. My DPOI was clearly Rudy. So
Tyler,
chalk that one.
I can't remember who I had for defensive player of the year. I might have just made the wimpy pick and just did Rudy or something. But I think I want to say that for all of us, we tried to pick a rookie of the year that wasn't those top 2 guys.
yeah, that's probably why.
So I think something that I kind of thought might happen in the preseason that has not at all actually happened was, man, I thought that this year with this draft class, I thought that the Spurs would actually embrace the tank. And I thought that Devin Vassell would get enough run that maybe he could pull that award out. But yeah, the Spurs did not tank. A debate could be had about whether or not they should have, but they didn't. So Vassell hasn't really done much.
That's for sure. Let's go with coach of the year. Go ahead, Tyler or Jordan.
So my did we do?
Let's do.
Yeah, we are on coach of the year.
Jordan.
Yeah, I think it's a 3-horse race. I think you look at the coaches of the top 2 teams in the West right now. You got Monty Williams with the Suns and Quinn Snyder with the Jazz. I think some of the shine has come off Quinn and the Jazz. They've faded a little bit now. I mean, Donovan's been out for the last few games with his ankle injury, but I think everyone's kind of having a revisionist history just because the Jazz have basically been in first for most of the entire season after the first dozen or so games, and they've done so in pretty dominating fashion. And everyone kind of forgets that the Jazz were picked to finish, roughly 4th or 5th in the West, kind of what they've been doing in the last few years. So for them to do this should not be understated, and this is Quinn's probably his one chance to get it. Right now, I've still got Monty Williams by a nose, though. I think the Suns, again, I just think they have to be recognized in some way for just the dramatic transformation that they've undergone. I know everyone saw the 8 games or whatever they won in a row in the bubble last year and thought there were signs, but I mean, I don't think anybody saw this. I think when we did over-unders at the beginning of the season, I think we all took the under on the Suns, which I think was 39.5 wins, and they've eclipsed that easily. So Tom Thibodeau obviously is the other clear-cut choice. I just don't have him quite as high up, even though, the Knicks have made a bigger jump in the standings based on just wins. I just think this is an award that tends to go to teams that just put up gaudy win totals in the regular season. Have to give a special shout out to Nate McMillan for just kind of torpedoing my anti-Hawks bets at the beginning of the season. I would have been great if Lloyd Pierce stuck around, but I think I saw 20-7 as the Hawks record since Nate McMillan took over. So he's doing a great job with them, and that's even through just a myriad of injuries there. Trae Young, DeAndre Hunter, and Cam Reddish, I think, were all out in tonight's game. Capella's been nursing some injuries lately. So I think McMillan deserves a shout out too. Even he's not going to get it because he coached half the season. But yeah, give me Monty over Quinn by a nose for now.
Solani.
So pretty similar to Jordan there in reverse order, and voting for me. 3rd place goes to Tibbs. He's running them New York kids into the ground. Shout out to their knees, RIP. Quinn Snyder, my number 2, only because, man, you can't lose to the Timberwolves 3 times and be the coach of the year. I'm sorry, Jordan. We're really this game is going on. The 3rd Jazz Timberwolves game is going on right now. That's why we keep giving Jordan grief over it. But my number 1 guy, my guy that comes away with the award, first time ever a player gets coach of the year, it's Chris Paul. Monty Williams, all due respect, Chris Paul's running that show. When they're out on the court, Chris Paul's calling those plays. Chris Paul's executing them. Give that man coach of the year because, man, we got to give him something.
Mine is definitely Tibbs. Their over-under for this year was 22.5. And out of
Who had the over? This guy.
Out of all of us, Jordan was the only one that hit that. So the fact that their over under was 22.5 and three of us that watch a good amount of NBA basketball didn't think that they would beat that. I think you got to give him his props for that. So, do we have anything else for this one? Sixth man of the year. So, Jordan, what you got? Let's run through this real quick.
Yeah, no, I think it's a 2-horse Jazz race. I think Jordan Clarkson is going to win it. He kind of had a really hot 6-week or so start this season. Is putting up the counting stats with the points and the threes. But I think Joe Ingles should get it. Historically great season. The numbers don't look great counting wise, 12 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, but his splits above 50% from 3 until I think he went 1 for 6 in the last Timberwolves game, of course. But yeah, he's leading the league in 3-point shooting. Runs an incredible pick and roll with Gobert, with Favors in the bench unit. Has just really stabilized them as well, serving as an additional ball handler. Throughout Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell missing some games this season. Ingles, I think he's down to 85% from the line, but at one point he was close to over 50% from 2. He was close to 50% from 3, and he was like at 89% from the 3-point line. So his true shooting percentage as well, taking all those into account, was approaching, I think, league best like ever. I forget what the number was off the top of my head, but he's been killing it for the Jazz. Really stepped it up in his early 30s, but seems like he just has that old man YMCA game that's just going to age well. He's either splashing threes or he's doing that really lazy left-handed layup for his main source of scoring. But give me Ingles.
Solani?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it really is a 2-horse race between Ingles and Clarkson. Clarkson really riding that hot start, but I mean, how does Ingles qualify for this award? I feel like whenever I look at a Jazz box score, I see that Ingles is like starting, but I mean, like,
He's
yeah,
maybe started 15 games this year, maybe.
Is he? Damn, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I like him, so like whenever I see it, it just sticks out because I'm like, yeah, he should be starting. Give me him. But yeah, I mean, like his like insane efficiency to me gives him the value over Jordan Clarkson, who has to the stat identical numbers as Tim Hardaway Jr. So because of that, give me Ingles as the 6th man. Although he is having a rough night tonight, Jordo. He might not be the NBA 3-point leader after this 3 of 12 performance. Although Jazz have caught up.
He hit his first 3. He hit 3 in like the first 4 minutes of the game and is now 0 for 9 since then.
Yeah. Oh, he just missed another one.
Ingles, by the way, has started 18 games this year. So mine is Clarkson. He's just been more efficient. I mean, improving from 78% from the line to 92 is pretty bananas. 3-point shooting is dropped a little bit, but he's taking about the same amount. I think he's just a real solid player, and he's been great down the stretch. He's been in the game on the floor, when they need him down the line, and I think he's a great shot maker. So let's see.
Just not a great shot maker tonight.
All right, next we're going to discuss, who we think are the title contenders in each conference. So let's roll through this one quickly. Jordan, what you got?
Yeah, in the East, I see it coming down to Brooklyn or Philly, and I hate to give Philly that much respect. I'm still a little leery of them, but I think Embiid's improved tremendously, and you have Doc Rivers there. Not my favorite coach, but you can't deny, he's won a title before. So I think it comes down to one of those two. I just think there's too many deficiencies with Giannis Antetokounmpo's game in the postseason, where the lane just kind of shrinks, and he's not able to get things that he can do in the regular season. In the West, I've got the top 3 seeds right now. So I've got the Jazz, the Suns, the Clippers, and I actually almost considered leaving the defending champions out, but I couldn't. I'm a little worried about just how much mileage they put on over the last year. But I think LeBron, with this ankle injury, may end up being a blessing in disguise, because he may actually come back just incredibly rejuvenated after missing, I guess, what's probably going to amount to a good couple months, because I think he was originally injured around March 20th. So, he misses the last 2 months of the season. The Lakers come in as, the 5 or the 6 seed. Like they're going to be dangerous, and Vegas is probably going to have them favored. Maybe they wouldn't have them favored against the Clippers or the Nets in any series. Anybody else, I think they'd be probably favored against though. So those are my 6, 2 from the East, 4 from the West.
So Lenny?
Yeah, Jordan took the words out of my mouth about not including the Bucks. From the East, Philly, Brooklyn. That's it. Sorry, Bucks, but I mean, until Giannis gets a credible 3-point shot, it is what it is. He's a Robin masquerading as a Batman. I love him. Should have come to Dallas. Anyway, in the West, the 2 LA teams, you got to have them in there, and then you got to give Utah some love. Like I know a lot of people are going to kind of have the "I'll believe it when I see it" mentality, but I don't know. I think this might be the year that we actually get to see it.
Interesting. So I am too. You guys, I can't believe neither one of you like the Bucks. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. I don't know. I think Drew Holiday is going to be a big factor in the playoffs. I think he's going to fill, I mean, I guess you could call him secondary playmaker because Giannis has the ball in his hands so much, but his defensive ability, he's definitely got some stones, and he's an underrated scorer too. I think they're definitely going to be in the mix. The 76ers, just because of the depth. I think a lot of the pieces that they got in the offseason were quietly, Daryl Morey did a great job. And then the Nets, I mean, you have 3, I don't know if MVP caliber players is quite it, but perennial all-star players, it's going to be hard to beat. Western Conference, I'm going to continue my blatant disrespect of Paul George until he teaches me to not do that. So I'm gonna say the Jazz, the Suns, the Lakers, and I think the Nuggets, depending on what Jamal Murray looks like. When is he scheduled to get back? Do we know?
He's not coming back.
Next
You might
season?
want to edit that out. He tore his ACL.
He's done.
Yeah.
I thought there was a chance that he came back. All right, so I don't believe in the Nuggets then. Even though Jokic is really going to give people just nightmares and headaches in the playoffs. And, that trade for Aaron Gordon is probably going to pay off dividends, but I don't think it's going to be enough. So I just have 3 then, Jazz, the Clippers, and the Lakers. LeBron.
Suns.
Huh? Yeah. Jazz, Suns, and the Lakers. Yeah.
Suns.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. Not the Clippers. I mean, Paul George, teach me to respect you in the playoffs. You're still, Joe Ingles is still buying you lunch every day. So I'm not worried about you at all. Let's move on to our next question, which is expectations for the rest of the regular season. What you got, Jordan?
We're rolling over my page of notes now here. I don't see any of the top 10 teams in either of these conferences changing now that the Wizards have made their stealth run through the East. I think they did lose tonight in overtime to the Spurs, but that snapped an 8-game winning streak. So they're now, I think, a couple games clear in the 10th spot. Let's see what I've got. I've got it finishing up. I do have the Jazz holding on to get the 1 seed, although these games against the Timberwolves, I'm glad we don't have any more against them. I got the Clippers actually getting to Phoenix. Everyone, wants to say Phoenix is right there for the 1 seed, but they also have a ridiculously difficult closing schedule. I think it's something like 9 of their final 11 games are against teams above 500. So they're going to have to fight for every one of them. They got the Clippers this week at some point. They have the Jazz on Friday at home, although I think Utah will be without Donovan. But anyways, Phoenix, difficult schedule. So I've got the Clippers jumping Phoenix for 2. I have the Nuggets staying at 4. I have the Lakers holding on over Dallas. I think people are maybe sleeping a little bit on Dallas, making a run at the Lakers for the 5th spot. But I haven't seen it consistently from Dallas. They string together a couple of good games. They look great against, a Brooklyn or a Philly, an upper echelon contender. And then they followed up and they lose to the Kings or
we're losing to the Kings right now, 20-3.
God. Holy.
Yeah, and I think they've lost 3 to the Rockets as well this year too. So there's not the consistency there, but I do think they get the 6. I've got Memphis and Golden State moving up for the 7 and 8 spots. Portland and San Antonio at the 9-10. Pelicans are far enough behind the Spurs, but the Spurs have a brutal closing stretch. But I think they're up 4.5, 5 games on the Pelicans with 11-12 to go and have the tiebreaker. In the East, I've got it basically staying the same. Brooklyn, Philly, Milwaukee, Atlanta and the Knicks. I'm going to go with Boston as the last team to kind of avoid the play-in, although I don't feel great about it. Every time I look at them, it seems like they're just not playing well in a game. And, everyone's talking about how their pieces are mismatched and how, Jalen and Jason played kind of the same position, do the same thing, and they're just not a well constructed team. But then I look down and see that they're 7-3 in their last 10. So, I think they are starting to improve a little bit. I've got Miami, Charlotte, Indiana, and Washington in that order to fill out the play-in for the 7 through 10. Want to throw out one quick stat. So looking at points differential, the top 6 teams right now, as you look at the standings, are all positive, and that's as I mentioned them in my projected final standings as well. There's only 2 other teams in the NBA, which gives you 14 total, are positive overall in terms of their points differential. Memphis, and then the Toronto Raptors, who are currently sitting 12th in the East. So do with that information, but you will. I do like Memphis to be a very, very tough out in the play-in game and potentially the first round. Getting back Jaren Jackson Jr., I think, is pretty big for them. Finally getting their full roster to play together this season. And who knows, the Raptors maybe make a savvy draft pick. And I think they've got a lot of really interesting pieces in place. And just, not being able to play at home and playing the whole season in Tampa Bay, I think really messed with them. So maybe just be one season of being down for the Raptors, and they may be right back to contending next year.
Especially with the way that they draft. So Lenny, what you got?
Yeah, real quick, because I think it is a quick run through. The only thing really in the East to keep your eye on is who is it that gets into that that has to do the play-in game between Miami and Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like Boston just has more talent, like, even though it doesn't always show, but like, I don't know. I just figured that it's going to be close, but whatever team does end up in the play-in game, I think will easily take care of Charlotte, who looks kind of like they might, maybe Indiana, but most likely Charlotte will be like that 8 seed that they have to play to hold on to their spot. So, not much drama there. Who really cares about who gets the 10 seed in the East? I think Toronto will probably eventually get back in over Washington, but and then that's the end of their cute little run. Meanwhile, out West, the top 10 is like virtually locked. There's like almost a 5-game difference between New Orleans and Golden State. So, how that shakes out, like once the playoffs start, is going to be interesting, but more or less, I think that those standings are pretty set. The only thing worth kind of keeping an eye on at this point is with the Lakers still missing LeBron, do they keep that 2-game lead that they have over Dallas for the 5 seed, which I think is super interesting just because whoever gets that 5 seed, whether it's Dallas or the Lakers, that means a first round matchup with the Nuggets, who will be without Murray, and then a second round matchup with the unproven Jazz. So could potentially be a decent path to the Western Conference Finals for whoever gets there. So I that's the only other thing I think that's really worth kind of keeping an eye on at this point.
Got you. So in the East, I don't really have a ton to add, over what you guys covered. I think if I'm a Washington Wizards fan, I don't know. I kind of want to stay in that play-in game, at least for right now. I would much rather take my chances against, the Pacers than playing another first round opponent. In the West, I have a couple of takes. So I think it was Jordan that said that the Clippers would leapfrog the Suns, which I still think is possible. They're 9-1 of their last 10 on a current 4-game win streak. So I have Jazz 1, Clippers 2, Suns 3. And I think both the Lakers and the Mavericks are going to leapfrog the Nuggets down the stretch. According to tankathon.com, I was checking that out to see just what the remaining schedules look like. Lakers and Mavericks have a pretty easy road. Mavericks have the second easiest schedule. The only good teams that they play down the stretch, the Nets, the Grizzlies, the Heat, and the Warriors. They get the Cavs twice, who Kevin Love looked like he was trying to retire tonight. The Kings twice, although we see how that's going tonight. The Pistons, and then the Timberwolves. So maybe they can perform like the other 29 teams in the NBA and actually take care of business against the Timberwolves. Um, other than that, I mean, I think it's going to shake out pretty much the same way that it is right now. I think it's possible that the Trailblazers are going to fade down the stretch, but you don't want to count out Damian Lillard, that's for sure. So let's move on to our next question: a play-in team that we think could, give a heavyweight a real run for its money. Let's go, Jordan.
Yeah, so I feel like there's a couple obvious answers, which I'm going to stay away from. I don't know that there's a team in the East. I think the gap between the haves, and the have-nots is a bit bigger in the East. Plus, you're likely potential top two seeds of the Jazz and Suns are, a bit unproven in the playoffs overall. So I think they're more vulnerable. It's easy to say the Warriors or the Blazers because, Steph or Damian Lillard can go nuclear at any point in time. But I really like what Memphis is doing. They're playing through a brutal second half schedule, which I believe featured like 40 games in 68 days because of the serious COVID issues in the first half of the season and games being postponed.
Who's this?
With Memphis.
Okay.
But yeah, they just got Jaren Jackson Jr. back. They're playing really good basketball. They're playing their best ball of the year. Ja Morant's on a heater right now. They're kind of getting into their own. They've just got a lot of players. Just a team that flies under the radar. Players that are playing pretty well that you probably don't know too much about. Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen. One of the best guys that people don't really know about, DeAnthony Melton, the former USC second round pick. I think the Rockets got originally. He's playing like 20 minutes or so off the bench, but he's like got 10 points, I think like 3 rebounds, 2 assists a game. He's good for, I think, like 2 steals, blocks combined as well. So
yeah, that's my boy.
He was thought of as more of a defensive player, kind of coming in with, a little bit of offensive chops. But yeah, he's really stepped it up. And this whole Grizzlies team has as well. And because of that tremendous depth, that's really allowed them to weather this just ridiculous second half barrage. They just took 2 games in Portland from the Blazers, and that's why they, I think, have officially passed them in the standings. And just looking at the schedule to close out, minus just the large number of games they have, the overall strength of schedule isn't that bad. Plus, I think they'd match up pretty well with either the Suns or the Jazz. If the Jazz get hot and hit a ton of threes, I guess the same could be said with the Suns. Yeah, they could put them away, but the Jazz and the Suns, just to me, don't seem like the type of teams that are necessarily going to blow teams out in the playoffs, and they don't have that just proven star power that's just going to absolutely just take the wind out of your sails. They don't have the LeBron, the Kawhi, the Kevin Durant. So, yeah, I think the Grizzlies are likely to make a good run.
Got you. Yeah, I'm still on Tankathon. They have the third easiest schedule Memphis does, so they can finish strong. They got 2 against the Magic, 1 against the Pistons, 2 against the Kings, and then 1 against the T-Wolves. So Lenny, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, because whoever, like I was saying earlier, like whoever ends up in the play-in with Boston and Miami, I mean, I guess they're kind of a threat out east, just because like the East is just kind of so weak that all those other teams I'm definitely not scared of. Meanwhile, out west, the Warriors and the Blazers are like the 2 teams that, just because if Steph or Dame can, I mean, either one of them can go like nuclear for a week and just go on a tear where they shoot close to 60% from the field and over 50% on threes, and could just give your team an absolute fit. So for me, it's those 2 teams are the only ones that like I really feel like out west that are play-in teams that could actually like kind of put some fear into some of the top teams.
So mine is they're technically not a play-in team right now, I believe. Actually, no, they are, because they're the 7th seed. But the Miami Heat, I think, once they, like tonight, they're playing without 4 rotation guys. They're missing Andre Iguodala, Victor Oladipo's out, and then they just announced Tyler Hero and Kendrick Nunn are both gonna be out tonight. I think if they continue to lose games, they're gonna stay within that play-in game, within striking distance of that. And, in the playoffs, you got to deal with Victor Oladipo. You got to deal with Jimmy Butler. You got to deal with all the shooters they have around him. Hero, secondary playmaking ability, and Duncan Robinson, along with Bam Adebayo. That's a lot to handle in the first round of an NBA series. So I think that they could give one of these heavyweights a real run for their money. Coached by, I think without question, a top 5 coach in the NBA in Spoelstra, with, probably the best culture outside of the Spurs in the game. I think they could really give someone a run for their money. So let's talk about an NBA draft prospect that's caught your eye, and kind of pair them with an NBA team that we think kind of fits their style. So Jordan, go ahead, take that one away.
Yeah, so I didn't realize I was going to be. We switched up the order on the questions here, so I'm just going Memphis heavy. I've got Davion Mitchell. If you guys watched any bit of the tournament, obviously he was on Baylor. They won it all. And in every game they played, it just seems like you saw more and more out of him. I think he'd be a tremendous fit in Memphis. Obviously, as a Jazz fan, getting another 45 D Mitchell would be great, but I think his stock has just obviously ascended too much. I've seen mocks where he's even going like in around 9-10. I think he could go maybe like right at the last pick of the lottery, around 14 or so, but top 10's a bit aggressive. He is going to be 23 when the NBA season starts, so that's a little concerning to me that he didn't really break out until he's a 22-year-old playing against 18, 19-year-olds, when he just has that physical mental just edge on them. But he did put up 14 points, 5.5 assists, and 3 boards, and 2 steals a game this year. It is a little concerning for someone who shot around 45% from 3, which was one of the best marks in the NCAA, and seemed to just anecdotally only get better in the tournaments. He was just hitting big shots all over the place. He is only 65% from the free throw line. But I think someone who plays with just that kind of zeal for the game, and just especially on the defensive end, just gets after it. Like, he takes every possession personally. And I think that'll last, for a few years in the NBA. It seems like there's a lot of guys that come in and kind of feel that way, and then they just kind of get beaten down by just the overall, culture of the NBA and everything. And it's a lot different to lock down some scrubs in college versus Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant and all these other guys. So, but I do think Davion Mitchell is just a very interesting fit for all of these reasons. I do have some concerns, again, like I mentioned, with the age, the free throw shooting, some of that. Just think that'll come out with his shot profile, that he seems to have a very good jump shot. So I think he'll be a decent free throw shooter eventually. But I try to focus on what prospects can do versus what they can't do. So I think there's a lot of things that he just brings to the table that correlate with winning the NBA. So really, really curious to see where he ends up. I do think Memphis is a great fit for him. Just imagine him and Ja Morant in the same backcourt together, along with some of the other reserve guards they have. I think he would, just embody that, bring back grit and grind again, maybe, the second go around of it a few years later. So, yeah, Davion Mitchell, definitely excited about his draft prospects.
So Lenny?
So for this one, I'm going to go with my guy, Jalen Suggs, because I think that it's a little interesting that depending on where this pick goes, if it ends up at number 3, then the Timberwolves would get to keep him, which they would desperately need him to pair, just to have somebody in their backcourt, because they need somebody on that team that can play some defense, and he would be able to bring that to them and allow them to put him on the other team's best guard, and then they can kind of hide Russell. But if this pick ends up falling outside of the top 3, it goes to the Warriors, who I think would be over the moon if they could get him, because I think that he would be a great person to put in the backcourt with Steph, because for the same reason, he can guard the other team's best offensive player and allow Steph to get a little bit more rest as you try to hide him on defense. I think it would also help Klay Thompson in the post injury, as he kind of like, because even though he was a solid defender, I don't think you really want him guarding the other team's best backcourt guy. And I think kind of transitioning him to like the 3 or even the 4, which I think you could get away with playing a 6-7 guy at, especially in some small ball lineups, or even defensively, if you just put him on the other team's 4, if the 4 isn't a big scoring threat, you could kind of like mix and match a little bit. And I think that Jalen Suggs would be the key to allowing them to do all of that. and to really help them accelerate their quick rebuild once they get their guys back. And then it's just a really quick kind of late guy that I did that I didn't really, because I think he could go to like any team, is Max A. Smith. He helped pull off that crazy Ohio State upset. Sorry, Jordan, your boys are just catching all kinds of L's out here. But because this question was originally posed to us as somebody who really caught our eye in the tournament. And in those 3 tournament games, because you might knock him for playing at like a smaller school, but in those tournament games against his best competition of the season, he averaged about 27 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and steal per game while shooting over 40% from 3. He actually led the country in scoring. He ranks in the 100th percentile on spot ups, 90th or better in pick and rolls, cuts, handoffs, 80th to 90th percentile in ISO plays off screens, which is all those advanced stats are courtesy of Jonathan Wasserman of Bleacher Report. He's nearly a 50-40-90 guy that shot 48% from the field, 43 from 3, and 89 from the line. His deficiencies are his size, because he's just 6'1". That would make him a big target for defense. But for a guy that's going to go kind of in the second round, I think that's fine, because you're going to be able to hide him with bench units anyway. So I think that he could become a walking bucket for some team down the line.
Cool. So I have 2. So the guy that I'm picking is Evan Mobley, but I feel like that's kind of cheating. So we'll get to that in a second. But I would really like Jared Butler on the Spurs. I think just his shot making ability, the way that he's able to navigate screens. He's an older guy, but he's definitely just more of a heady player. Kind of reminds me of Bellinelli a lot in a lot of ways, except he's a little bit more dangerous off the dribble than Bellinelli is. So I think he would be interesting in the Spurs system. My guy Day'Ron Sharpe. So I think it would be interesting if he went to the Knicks, and I think he's definitely going to be a bench big at the beginning. But either one of their first round picks right now, they're slotted to pick 21st and 22nd. And then they also have the 34th overall pick. So I think that he could go in any one of those 3 spots. I think some small ball lineups with him as the center. His passing ability is really, really underrated. I think his jump shot is much better than people give him credit for. I don't think I saw him attempt a 3, but it looked good. His mechanics and the way that he let it go, which is irregular for someone with that long of arms. But so those are my 2 under the radar kind of ones. And then Evan Mobley, I mean, I wanted to do it realistically within his range. I don't think he gets out of the top 3. He would be really interesting in Minnesota. Pairing him with Cat, just someone to defend, be able to switch pretty much 2 through 5. I think just gets after defensively, rebounds pretty well, can handle the ball well for a 7-footer, and I think he's just a worker. The amount of improvement that you've seen in his game, from junior year of high school to now, I think he's added jump shooting ability. I don't think he's ever going to be a 3-point shooting threat, but I think it would be really interesting offensively to see him just have a 2-man game, side pick and rolls and stuff like that. I think he'll make up for a lot of Cat's defensive deficiencies, and he would just do a lot of the dirty work on that team. And like Selene said, they definitely need defenders. All right, so last question. So give a couple of under the radar guys to keep an eye on down the stretch. As the season winds to a close here. So Jordan, what you got for this one?
Yeah. So I just kind of went with a general classification of player. Because I think if you look at a lot of these lottery and first round guys, not everybody finds themselves in the perfect situation, and not everybody's able to stick it out and kind of make those strides. I think an interesting case to support that is Malik Monk kind of making a step this year with the Hornets. They kind of stuck with him, and we
knew it was coming, Selene. We knew it was coming.
He's shown a good bit of improvement for them. You can argue it's a contract year. You can look at him having COVID earlier in the year. And
look at his little T-Rex arms. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just been some serious obstacles for him to overcome with him having COVID this year. I think his grandmother actually passed away due to COVID. Again, there was a great article. I think it was the Ringer again as well that I read that just kind of just detailed just that whole just kind of, I guess, archetype for the lottery player that just kind of struggles off the bat and kind of puts it together. And again, this happens to coincide with a contract year, so it'll be interesting to see if he stays. But there's a lot of those players that don't get that chance, and they need to get dealt to that second team to get a fresh start. I'm looking at guys like Wendell Carter and RJ Hampton, and I've got Daniel Gafford on here. I do have Darius Baisley. I'm kind of just throwing some names at you now, but honestly, the Magic and the Thunder just have some intriguing intriguing mix of young players. I think the Vucevic trade, maybe signaled just kind of the end of an era. Vucevic and Gordon getting dealt for the Magic. They kind of sat on them and tried to see where it could get them, and it got them to the 7 or 8 seed. But now, if you can tell me you've got a backcourt with Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, and RJ Hampton, I think that's a pretty tremendous 3-guard rotation. You definitely got to be patient with it. But all 3 of those guys have tremendous upside long term. Just looking to see if I have anything else specifically.
They all have the skill set.
I had mentioned DeAnthony Melton earlier and kind of went over his stats. He's just kind of someone that's under the radar, and you'll get a chance to see him. And again, some of the other Memphis players that I threw out there. I think there's a lot of people that couldn't name much more than 3 players on the Memphis roster, and I think you're going to get a chance to see them play some really solid basketball here down the stretch, and then probably in the play-in game in the first round.
What were your names from Memphis?
DeAnthony Melton was the main one. I had mentioned a couple of Dylan Brooks and Grayson Allen, who been playing decently.
Trip anybody lately?
Probably. So Lenny, what you got for this one?
Yeah, definitely add to the Memphis list of names to watch. Desmond Bain. Really wish my squad could have got him up on draft night. Didn't happen. Hurts. Hate to see it. But I got 2 names that I'm really keeping an eye on here as we go down the stretch of the season, because we won't be seeing these guys in the postseason. But one of them, like Jordan mentioned, the Thunder having some interesting guys. One of them is Lou Dort, the lanky dude from he's not very tall, but he's got a crazy wingspan from Arizona State. The last 3 games that he's been healthy for, he has averages of 32 points, 6 rebounds, a couple assists, and almost 3 steals. Although he sat 4 out of their last 7 games. So but there was ones where when he's played pretty well. A little bit of a streaky shooter, but he's interesting. He's good defensively, and it looks like the offense, there might be a little bit something there. I'm not saying he's gonna be able to put up those type of points on a regular basis or anything, but for him to be a double figure scorer, I think would be really useful for a lot of teams in the future. So big trade chip. The other guy I'm keeping an eye on is the pride of Rochester, New York, Isaiah Stewart, leading rookie rebounder. He's second in blocks. He in his 2 starts last week with Plumlee out, he averaged about 17 points, almost 19 rebounds, 2.5 blocks, 1.5 assists, and 1.5 steals, really making Rochester proud.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that they have him and Sadiq Bey. Sadiq has been a little bit better of a shooter.
Man, you got to rub that one in
than we expected. But, so my first is going to be a familiar guy for me to show some love to, Kevin Porter Jr. I think it's going to be interesting as he showcases, just ridiculous scoring ability, playmaking ability. He's just fun to watch for that Rockets team. I think this is kind of an opportunity to show that, he cares about the right things, and, he's going to show up when they need him to. And, obviously they don't really need him to down the stretch here, but
is that why he showed up at the strip club and got COVID last week?
We're gonna move on past that, but I think KPJ, as a Cavaliers fan, I'm kind of salty that we didn't get all that much for him. But I think he's a talented player with a bright future, and I think he factors into their plans long term. My other two names are DeJounte Murray. Down the stretch, the Spurs have the most difficult strength of schedule left, with two games against the top two seeds in the West, the Jazz and the Suns. And then they also play the top two seeds in the East with the Nets and the 76ers. And the only, quote unquote, easy opponent that they play is the Kings. So I think he's going to be very key to the run. I think he's bounced back pretty well from his injury. But, down the stretch of the season with the stretch run, and then also in the playoffs, I think he's going to factor in pretty heavily into the rotation. And then my other one, Jordan touched on briefly earlier, but Dylan Brooks, just all the little things that he does, and just being, the secondary scorer for the Memphis Grizzlies, behind Ja, averaging just under 17 a game, 2 assists, 3 rebounds, a steal, half a block. He's improved his game in a lot of the little nuances as far as cutting and defensive rotations and stuff like that. I think he's probably he's definitely the best defender on the team. I think Brandon Clark might have something to say about that, but he just gets after it at both ends. I think he's really proven that he deserves, a place in this league, and has really rewarded Memphis for their belief in him. So I think down the stretch, he's going to be really important to their run, whichever direction it goes down the stretch here. So that's all I got. You guys have any parting shots, any last stats and nuggets that you want to share with the audience?
I got just one here that the Jazz are officially 0-3 against the Timberwolves after Rudy Gobert gave up a very bad wide open layup to Russell at the with like 4 seconds to go.
Oh man,
very concerning for the number 1 seed in the West that you can't beat the Timberwolves.
Tough.
Well, I'm glad we're done playing the Timberwolves, so we'll be the first team to win the title while going winless against one of the worst 3 teams in the league. So I do have a stat as it relates to the Jazz and their title pursuit. The NBA playoffs expanded to 16 teams, 8 per conference back in 1983-84. So in those 36-37 years, the team with the best regular season record in the NBA of those 36-37 years has went on to win the title 15 times. So that's right about 40%. And then 4 other times they were the runner-up finalists. So that's 50% of the time, basically, that if you have the best record in the regular season, that you are going to make the NBA Finals. I don't have the stats offhand for second best and all the other numbers, but yeah, you're basically looking at of 75-ish finalist teams, that about 25% of them were that number 1 overall seed. So as if there wasn't enough to play for with home court advantage and whatnot, just another nugget to throw out there that look out for that battle for the overall 1 seed. I think the Suns now are probably a half game back at the Jazz after tonight's shenanigans, and the Clippers, I think, lost tonight, but I still think they'll be potentially be right there down the stretch as well. So I'll close with that.
They were 2 games back when the night started, so I think you guys are still a game ahead unless the Suns won. I haven't seen.
Oh yeah, the Suns lost yesterday. I forgot about that. They lost a half game. So yeah.
All right, gentlemen, appreciate the time, and definitely take care and stay safe. All right.
All right,
Catch you on the playoff, Bob.
Go Jazz.